Okay, so hello, Emily Jackson, and welcome to AuroraCast finally.
I know, it's good to be here. It's
good to
been a
see you.
while.
How are you?
Good to see you. Yes, really well, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm good. I'm surprised it's taken me sort of to get to episode 18 to kind of get you on the show. But I think we try because the last time I saw you, I think I was on episode sort of 10. But I think I
Yes.
wanted to do it in person, didn't I? And then lockdowns and
It all
just
kicked off.
here we are over Skype,
Oh, no,
which
it's
is
lovely. Yeah, no, it's good to be here. Thank you.
good to see you. So for those, I suppose my introductions for you. You are a pianist, composer, and music teacher.
Yes. Ooh.
Kind of. I don't know. I didn't know whether to. I don't know whether there's any order in priority of things there. But I suppose
No,
that
it's all good.
does that kind of sum Emily Jackson up.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I'd say they're my three kind of areas of expertise, as it were. You know, if you could call it that. But yeah, they're the things that I've sort of studied and trained to do. So yeah, I'd say you've nailed it on the head there.
Good. And I was thinking about this earlier because we met at university down in Brighton, and that was 9.5 years ago.
I don't know where that time's gone. That's just crazy. I know. I'm just like, I was thinking, was it? Yeah, it was 2013. No, 2012. 2012.
2012.
Yeah. Good grief.
So it's time has definitely flown, but it's good we've kind of kept in touch all these years.
It is lovely. Yes. Good journey.
We've done well there. So I suppose it's because I remember when I think when I first got onto the course there, I'd moved from production. I mean, we'll come on to this because this is one of the later questions. But
yeah, sure.
I suppose you were one of the first, piano's my thing. I love piano. I play piano.
Oh, yes.
In terms of university, because all the guys from my course before were playing sort of electronic stuff and whatever else. We didn't have many pianists. It was all the sort of boom clubby stuff and stuff like that and rock.
Yeah, so, that's it. That's good.
I mean, when do you reckon you first started playing the piano then? What's Emily's journey with piano?
Well, probably, I hate to say it, about 24 years ago. So I was about 5, literally just 24 years ago. So probably I was about 5. I remember getting keyboard quite young. And I think, my earliest memories of playing my first Casio keyboard and just making up sort of, little motifs and tunes on the keyboard, which was fun. And it was just sort of more of something to tinker around on at the time. But yeah, probably about 5, I would say, was my
that's cool. They were those Casio keyboards. They did us some. I don't know whether you still see them really, but Casio was all over the place when we were young, wasn't it? It was really
it was. Yeah,
it was like the craze. It was Casio keyboards.
It sure was, yeah. No, literally, they were really, I mean, they're still obviously massive and things, but yeah, they were real sort of benchmark for beginner keyboards and calculators and technical bits and pieces. So yeah, no, they're always quite enjoyed using Casios.
They're always good. They are good fun. I mean, was it sort of? Well, I suppose it's difficult to say really if you were saying that you started at 5, but would you say that it was kind of? Was it always clear that you'd end up doing something with music?
I think I would say I probably noticed that around when I was sort of, approaching maybe 10, 11. I think when I was at primary school, music was very much just something I did at home. There was never really much education at school for music, sadly. So I think I never really had a lot of extracurricular things with music. I always went to chess club.
Well, that's maths. I mean, it's the calculations.
I feel like I'm all right at chess now, so that's good. But but yeah, I think there wasn't an awful lot of extracurricular things for music at school. So yeah, I think it was just tinkering around at home for all that time. And I think I would say that's probably where my sense of pitch developed, probably from where I'm trying to sort of think back, and developed my ear and my oral skills through just playing bits at home. And yeah, I think improv and things like that, I'd say that's probably helped with that, when I was a lot younger and you sort of develop those skills. So then, really when I kind of went to high school, I'd say that's where I started to really get into the school music lessons and sort of thought, oh, this is really fun. But it wasn't really, it was never really kind of what I planned as my career when I was that age, if I'm honest. I suppose fell into it really.
it's strange because the amount of people I've spoken to now, and especially in the art, it's more been kind of arty people who, you know, like people going to graphic design and things like that, have said that school was like a really sort of like it seemed that was like their start, and they pushed them a lot in the school. But it's weird because I was going to school kind of down like near where you live, so I was in like a London school, if you like, or you know, I was in Caterham and Whiteleaf, so
Wow.
you know, Surrey. And when I moved to, and there was no music, there was like I don't really recall. I think we had like a music lesson. No, in primary school, I don't remember there being anything at all. And then secondary was like we did music, but it wasn't really a big thing.
No.
And then when I went to Brighton to finish out years 10 and 11, like music was massive. They had studios in the school, and like there was a real sort of like they had like live gigs in the school. And I wonder if it's just kind of like where we
I think
we went to school.
I think
don't know.
it's definitely. I mean, Brighton's obviously always had a real strong music scene, and I think, you know, I think they kind of feed off that as well. And I think there's definitely more drive for it down there. And I think you're right. I think it just very much depends on the area and kind of statistically what people want to push, really.
It's strange, and it just made me think because it's like it's good to hear that people are kind of being like kids are learning like creative stuff in schools, and the schools are still pushing. Like it's good to kind of. I mean, I suppose I'd need to talk to someone who's like I need to do a RAWcast in 10, 15 years with someone who's at school now to see if it's still a thing. If I'm still doing it in 15 years, but like it's just nice to hear that it's not. You know, it's nice to hear, I suppose, that people were doing things in school. But yeah, it's strange. So would you say that high school was more where you kind of focus more, like you tinkered but you got more into it at high school, or I say high school, secondary school?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was more sort of even sort of year 7 was quite up and down because I moved schools halfway through, so I kind of briefly got into music in year 7 at my first school, and then moved to Carshall Girls, and really kind of I think more year 8 year 9, that's when I really started to take it seriously, and obviously chose it for GCSE and things like that, and that's where my real kind of drive for it came from there.
Perfect. So, I like that. And were you the? I wrote the question here. Like I was so tired of writing these last nights. Like, were you the first musical Jackson? I like that question.
Yeah, I know, that's a really good question. That's a really. I think that's actually quite a hard question. I was really thinking about that, and I was like, I mean, my grandma, so my dad's mum, was naturally very musical. She, as far as I know, she had perfect pitch. She could sing perfectly in tune. She had a lovely voice, bless her. We had many funny afternoons singing random stuff, and she played the accordion when she was younger.
Oh wow!
Very, very, naturally very musical. I think her family were as well. But I don't know too much about them. I don't think any of them, they never did it as like a career. It was just kind of done at home. I suppose at wartime, it was like, you sit and play the piano to each other. And I'd say no. I'd say definitely on the Jackson side of the family, there's definitely a musical gene in there somewhere.
Okay, it's just always interesting because for me, it's just me. You know, and you hear some people that are like, my dad he played in big band, or he was in a military band, or the real sort of music. My mum was in the operas, and other people like they're literally the first. It's always I just always find it interesting, like how did it become? I don't know. I suppose I'm just interested in like human development, how these things become seeds, if you like. So that's interesting that you'd sing with your nan and stuff like that.
I'd say that was definitely I think so in terms of the genetics, I think that's definitely got something to do with it. But I'd say I've been brought up on really good music as well. My mum and dad always played. Sort of my mum's got great taste in music, and she's always singing, and we've always had music very much like the centre of our lives. So I think that's got a lot to do with it as well. I think they've always been real keen on music and listening to it, and sort of observing it, I think, which really helps obviously with your cognitive skills. So
absolutely it's good to hear. It's like there's some music playing at, not so much at my old man's anymore, but my mum's, they've always got bought an Alexa, so there's always you always hear someone in the kitchen, Alexa play this, Alexa play that, and it's good to have music in the house. So I suppose you kind of continuing along the music route, like I suppose, when did you first start sort of gigging? Because I know that, when did that become a thing? When did you start performing, I suppose?
Well, I mean, you do like the odd kind of school concert, you know, at school, but yeah, nothing really seriously. I'd say when I went to Nescott, when I started my HND, so that would have been 2010. So I was about 18, and that was when I've kind of got into the production and the technical side of things a bit more. And I met Dan at college, and so we kind of formed a band with some friends and some of obviously his friends, which are now our friends. And yeah, I think we formed the band then, our first sort of band, and I think that's where I kind of thought, oh, I really, this is really for me, and I really enjoyed I think we did our first gig and I was just hooked. I really loved the life of going up to London and playing. It's good fun.
I remember the stories as well, sort of, you were telling me lugging those sort of really heavy sort of digital pianos on the tube.
Yeah. Yeah, I that was awful. I had a Roland GX, I think it was. It was like, I think it was about 60 kilos or something ridiculous. And it was like carrying an adult man, basically. And taking that on the Northern Line was not great fun. I think we only did that a couple of times, and then we ended up sort of driving, I think, most times. But I should have bought a much lighter piano, but I had my heart set on that one because it was very nice keys.
This is the thing, isn't it? It did make me laugh. I was like, hang about, you took that on the tube, and you were like, yeah, we got it on the tube. I was like,
yeah,
okay, this girl's nuts.
Yeah, I must have been. It took about 3 of us to carry it. I remember walking through Brick Lane with 3 of us carrying this ridiculously heavy piano and thinking, brilliant. What am I doing? I should have just bought a Nord stage or something.
So was it? I gather that was like fully weighted.
Yeah, it was very weighted. Yeah, it was all kind of I can't remember what materials it was made of, but it was easily 50 something kilograms. It was really heavy. Yeah, it was definitely. It was like probably carrying myself.
Brilliant. So do you? I mean, do you? I suppose that's one of the things as well in terms of in terms of what you play now. Do you? Because I know that at one point you were doing kind of keys and things like that. Do you have almost like a piano at home, or did you get like a fully like full key weighted digital piano, or what you kind of jamming with now? Yeah,
so I've bought. I think now that I'm not gigging anymore, haven't done for quite a long time now, and I think I've gone for a Clavinova. So I bought a sort of a high end Yamaha Clavinova, and I think I wanted something that really felt like a piano, sure. But obviously, being in a flat, it's not very easy to get a real piano up the stairs. No. So yeah, this although it's a static piano, it doesn't go anywhere. It's it's obviously a lot more kind of compact than an acoustic, and it's a lot less maintenance and things. So yeah, I think really I bought that when I was studying for my grade 8 exam, and I think it's a workhorse really. I use it for work and stuff. So.
Well, I think that's the thing, because it is really. I mean, of course, if you were going to go and record, then you want to get, you want to be on a grand, or you want to be on an upright or something like that. But it is. I mean, this thing is like crap. Like, it does my head in. But for the stuff I do, it's fine. But but it is really. It's about because I can remember I had a really cheap M Audio Oxygen thing.
Yeah, I remember.
For doing just like those, just like ostinatos and stuff, and just hammering it out, it's perfect. But then if you're trying to do an actual, me getting all romantic with my low lights at night, doing a sort of romantic score or whatever, it's like, this just doesn't feel
hasn't got the in terms of
no, it hasn't got it. But I think it's quite incredible what they do now, because I know like even in the MIDI keyboard worlds, like you can get, like piano grade keys.
Yeah.
Just in a MIDI keyboard, so it won't make any sound. You've got to use the computer to get there, but it is all about that feel, I think.
Oh, it is massively. Yeah, I think it's. I think that's what I've started to kind of realise in sort of later years of music. I think it was especially with the composing taking a bit of a backseat as well. And I think I think eventually I'll get like a portable stage piano that's very compact as well, something like a Nord or something. I'd really love a Nord. Oh, they're gorgeous, aren't they? Yeah, I remember playing on a few, and it was just like, oh my gosh, they're just an all-rounder, aren't they? But yeah, I think I have got like a 32 key MIDI controller, which that's my kind of what I use for jamming ideas on now, and sure. If I use that as a portable teaching studio as well. So if I'm out and about and I've got lessons to do, I teach on that as well. Works quite nicely on Zoom, which obviously everything's moved on to now. But yeah, I've been teaching lessons using that as well because I can do that sort of remotely, which is nice. So yeah,
you've got a remote teaching rig as well.
Which, yes,
which leads us, because it's one of the things when I was kind of canvassing to like get my thoughts together for today. Is kind of, education has been, because your uni really. I mean, you said you went for the HND, which I gather was that music production.
Yeah, so yeah, we did production for 2 years, and yeah, that was obviously there was modules on like composition, improv, music history, stuff like that. So it was kind of, I think at that point you're kind of expected to know all the musicality type stuff, which, if I'm totally honest, was my weak point at the time. But I think because it was more computer based, I was able to really throw myself into it, and I guess it wasn't so much about musicianship, it was more about computer work and things like that, which was really helpful. And then from that I was really kind of like, I need to work on my musicianship. And I think, although the ear side was always really strong, I think everything else, like reading music, I couldn't do pretty much at all at that age. That came a lot later, so I had to push that.
It's one of those things, because I think we had a similar path, because I was doing a music production FDA, which is a foundation degree, and then you do like your 3rd year top up, which is the same as the HND, right?
Yeah.
So I think I was the same. I think it was all kind of like a little bit of stuff in the studio, which I loved, and then this is like a film module. This is your history. This is like, we had a notation and harmony kind of thing. It was all a little bit of everything, and then I suppose you specialise for your 3rd year, which is where we met.
That's where we met.
Doing music composition for film.
Oh, definitely.
And it was basically just me and you, wasn't it, on the course?
Yeah, I was thinking that the other day. I was like, I don't recall anyone else being there. I think it was just us, wasn't it?
I couldn't believe it. I got down there. I think you were the first person I met.
Yeah,
I was sitting on a bench. I was like, where is everyone? Where is everyone for this course? And there was 4 of us, wasn't there?
Yeah, there were 4. Yeah, and then
it was just me and you actually turned up.
You actually turned up. I mean, the others sort of dropped off very early on. I think I recall most of the year just being the 2 of us in the class.
Literally, very strange, but at the same time, I suppose we kind of got what you could call personal tuition to a point.
We did. We were really lucky.
It's which was odd, but I think it's so. Do you think that, because it was weird? I suppose I actually spoke to my lecturer from my first course yesterday. On Zoom. I'm looking to do a bit of guest lecturing through Zoom for his students, but it's not confirmed yet. So we had a chat with him, which was interesting. And it's like, I suppose I went, because I could have stayed and I could have done the top up, which was like creative music production. I could have still done film, but I really wanted to kind of go in and actually really focus on that area. Do you think that was like the same? Was that when? I mean, it's strange, isn't it? Because I went, you were playing live, I was playing live, and I wanted to sort of be like a live sound engineer, or just learn more about music. What made you go for film, or what was the sort of how did that come about?
Do you know, that's really, really good question. I would say the answer to that, it came from the film music module that I did on my HND, and I just absolutely loved it. And I loved, we did, we scored trailers, we did a game score, we worked on like hit points for games and stuff like that. And I was just like, oh, this is just like, I just love this. And I didn't see it as work at all or studying. I saw it as just like, oh, I've just found something really amazing to do. And I think it was just like, oh, I can do that. You could do this for a job. And I was just so blown away by the fact that you could do that as a job, and was like, where can I do a course that, I can study this all the time, sort of thing. And that's, I guess, looking it up and found that one. And I think that, that was, the content looked really good and it was nearby. So
it sounds like you're exactly the same as me.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
Exactly the same as me, except you did. I'm kind of going to segue the next one into the first one, because had you worked with an orchestra before you came to the 3rd year with me, or was that wasn't it?
Yeah, I'd already done some bits with Epsom and Croydon by that point. So the first bit of work with Epsom Symphony Orchestra was in 2011. And that was where I was actually still at Nescott, and I had to enter we could enter a competition to compose a piece of world music. So I chose the tango because I've always loved the tango. I guess my piece won. So the prize was to have it performed live at a concert. And that's kind of how the relationship with Daryl and obviously Croydon Symphony as well kind of started, really. And I wrote to him after the concert, and I was just so blown away. I was literally in tears, because to hear your music live is just a whole other thing, in itself. It really, you can feel that everything you've put into it. It's just like, it's magic. It really is. And yeah, I think that was a real drive to then, right, do you know what? I'm going to do this for a job.
So was Daryl the music director, was he? I can't remember where he...
Yeah, so Daryl conducts and directs Epsom Symphony and Croydon Symphony orchestras. So yeah, amongst others as well. But yeah, very, very, wonderful, sort of wonderful person to know. And yeah, I've learned a lot from him. So
that's the thing. And this was the other thing, because when I was writing the questions like last night, I think I have literally genuinely gone mental, because I swear I came down to Croydon Fairfield Halls with you to hear your piece, right?
You did.
And then I was thinking, as I was writing the question, I was like, or did I see it on YouTube? And then I've sort of, because I've seen that same the same symphony orchestra in Fairfield Halls in Croydon playing other things. I was like, no, I have gone down. I did see it with you.
Yeah, you came. Yeah, I remember coming. Yeah.
And it was around that time last night when I thought, I'm going to bed.
But your brain's playing tricks on you.
but because I can remember it's tango, but it's like, it's dramatic. There's some serious, there's some heavy drama in there.
Very heavy, yeah. Well, it was, I think because of the first one, which we sort of named Fuero, which is like fire, and it's sort of quite aggressive and powerful. And when I first wrote it, it kind of it was all on Logic at the time, sure. And it was all very MIDI, and I didn't have a lot of clue with how to write a piece properly, at the time. And Daryl, I spent many days in Daryl's kitchen. We're sitting orchestrating it all out into the parts for the orchestra, which is where I learned to orchestrate, if I'm honest. So I owe a lot to him because it helped me massively with reading music, which I hadn't got a clue. And I think that, really came at a good time, because obviously starting the course. And then I guess Fuero was played quite a bit sort of with them, with Croydon, with other orchestras. I think Guildford a few times as well, Seven Oaks. So it was various sort of places around Surrey, which was lovely. And it was lovely to follow that. And then wrote two more movements to the kind of concerto, if you like, after that. Which had very different feels. So
no, it was really cool, I must admit. And it was cool to kind of because I'd heard, I think you'd played me that the stuff you'd done in Logic, and then you had a recording that you'd done just with a Zoom recording, and it was just interesting to see. I guess it's one of those things, because we were supposed to have some sort of live performance with our course in the third year that we did, but it didn't happen. Which I'm not resentful about at all.
Oh no, of course, no. I know, it's such a shame. That would have been lovely. I know, I remember that.
Would have been good. But it is that thing. I think that's and it's interesting you say that because my orchestration is like Sibelius, and it's that's fine. But I suppose because for me, I'm still kind of writing with samples, and I'll put it into Sibelius. But sometimes then I'm kind of, and I suppose that's what you could say, that's what a musician's job is, but it's okay, you put your nuance into this, listen to what I've done with the MIDI and then go from there. But it's you read some of the scores, and it's how they actually write the accents and the nuances on all that stuff you're going to learn through the sort of stuff exactly, articulations, everything. It's I suppose that's when you really, when you were sitting down with a conductor and a music director, it's so that's what that, okay, and I'll put that there.
So true.
Real world experience, right?
Yeah, it really was, honestly, because I honestly didn't have a clue, and I think there were so many gaps in my musical training that, as I say, at school, I didn't do piano lessons at all until I was in my teens, and even then they were very, I'd do it for a year and then stop, and it wasn't, I never did grades or anything until I was a lot older. So I didn't have that real fundamental training in music. It was all just in my head. And it was I need to try and make sense of it somehow and get it on paper so that it makes sense to other people.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where he helped a lot with that massively.
And then if I need you next year, because I don't think we're going to be in the studio this year,
no,
I'm going to be messaging you saying, what is going on with this, mate?
Yeah, no, I would be really happy to help, because I think it's one of the very few things that keeps my brain ticking. So yeah, no, of course.
Well, it's strange, isn't it? Because it's kind of like, I like that side of it, but to me, the sheet is MIDI.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that world completely. I can look at a MIDI roll and know exactly what's going on with it.
Yeah.
And I can look at the page and know exactly what's going on with it. But I'm still fluffy with like where the notes are and things like that, because I just don't. I write and then I hand it over. You know.
Yeah,
it's kind
that's okay. Yeah, that's fair.
But it's strange. You hear that a lot. You kind of, when you talk to composers, it's like some composers are literally like, you know, they have a piano, they have their sheet music, and then they've got a couple of guys who do the mock-ups.
Yeah.
You know, and then you've got the guys who are like kind of like me, I suppose, who are just full into the tech side of it.
Yeah, of course.
But I think you can definitely go into the studio completely unprepared.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, definitely.
But then musicians just surprise. I mean, I was in the studio with Skycracker just before the last lockdown was, before November. And this fella came in, Paul, who's a trumpeter. Paul, I think it's Jordanus. I'll link him below.
Yeah.
A professional trumpeter, you know, and
good person to know.
He'd literally heard the song once, you know, and I think we had the parts out for him, so he knew. When he came down to the studio, he knew kind of like what the chord progressions were, and it wasn't sheet. It was like literally just almost like like old school tab sort of stuff.
Wow.
And he just went for it, and I was recording him like, wow, you know, like, this is awesome, you know. And it's musicians, they do amaze me. Like, I mean, they say we've got the best players in the world, and I think that's probably true. From the sight reading and their ability to, he really did blow me away. Like, it's really, really cool seeing him work like that in the studio.
Yeah.
I was kind of saying to the guy Steve, I was like, well, has Paul rehearsed it? Have you sent him the stuff? He's like, well, I sent him the track.
They just pick it up. Yeah, it's a real, it's one of those things, isn't it? I think, you know, just to be able to
improv like that.
Take it in and yeah.
But he played jazz, and I suppose that, you know, he'd been running on stage with Ronnie Scott's and whatever else. So it's when you're in that world, because we just was towards the end of it, I was saying, mate, just improv some stuff over the end of this. Then he's like, yeah, okay,
like,
just went for it.
Yeah, they don't think yeah, that's it. It's just second nature, isn't it? Yeah. No,
2.5 hours, we're done drinking tea. I'm like, okay,
that's happy days.
It's good fun. So I suppose so the second year, I suppose, because for me it was like, that's when I kind of I got a piano teacher then.
Yeah.
In my second year, because I was struggling.
Yeah.
You know, because I come from like the production to then, I was like, oh my god, I need to step up my theory, which was good. This is why I went on the course, right? You went on after, so for the listeners here, the third year for us was like, it was still techie, because we were still using the computers, weren't we, to kind of mock stuff up. But we had we were learning we did like jazz big band stuff, didn't we? And we did like
case studies, and
experimental old Nigel Rippon.
Yeah.
With his
Frank Zappa, that was it. Yeah, I was going to say, I thought it was Frank Zappa in there somewhere. Yeah,
he used to give us some quite interesting lectures. I did enjoy them; they were fun.
Yeah, it was good. It was I think that was an area that I was, again, not so clued up on. So I think it really helped give you a huge perspective of, like, you know, just the endless genres that are out there. And I think I've always been very into, like, you know, your standard pop, you know, your kind of big genres, and then, like, you know, obviously classic and film music and stuff like that. But I think to learn about all these kind of sub-genres and how they all fit, really, you know, into the tree is really interesting.
Well, I think that one of my favourite things we did was that personal composition course, and I did some weird.
I think I've still got it. I've got to find it.
I did like a sort of fusion, like merging Indian and Western cultures.
Yeah, you did.
And you took what you did was amazing, because you literally took all these different romantic ideas, didn't you, from classical music, and sort of merged them.
I think,
What
yeah.
was it called?
I can't remember what it was called, but I know that I'd not long been to Dubai, and I was all over like Middle Eastern music, and I was really into all that kind of Arabic themes and stuff like that. And I think, yeah, literally we'd just been to Dubai a couple of months before, and I was really, yeah, just like, okay, I need to just like throw all my inspiration into this project. So yeah, I think I can't remember off the top of my head what it was called, but I'll have to have a look. But yeah, it was definitely, yeah, there was real kind of like Arabic themes, and I think I took inspiration from like the Prince of Egypt, and that's where the Hans Zimmer stuff started to come in, and I was just like hooked on his stuff. And
Happens to the best of us.
it does, yeah. There's worse things to be addicted to, I guess. So.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, so but you kind of, because I think I then sort of like finished my degree, got my degree, and I wanted to work. I was, you know, I wanted to get out there, which was interesting. All the crazy things I started to do past uni and kept going.
Yeah,
But you continued, didn't you?
Yeah, so yeah, I went to Kingston. Yeah, so I was a bit of a crossroads, and I was kind of like, I think, you know, I came off of the course, you know, the BA with, you know, in a real high, and I'm thinking, right, you know, I need to really push this. And I think I was at the time, you know, going up to London, really trying to sort of get my work out there and network and things like that. And it wasn't going very well, because I think, you know, as I'm sure a lot of female composers will relate, it's probably a lot harder being female. Because, you know, it is unfortunately a very male dominated world. So I think my thoughts were, okay, I'm going to try and go a step higher, to hopefully try and separate from the pile of, you know, other people trying to do it locally, and, you know, hopefully I can, you know, sort of get some sort of work. And I think I just really enjoyed it, and I think it was obviously at a time where I really needed it as well. It was actually more like a prescription as opposed to a potential career. You know, I was, obviously, you know, like not long lost my dad, and I think it was like I need to just channel, and I need to be working and studying, and it was just a really helpful release from it all, and just helped me to keep my mind off it. So yeah, I'd say it was more, if I'm honest, I did it because I needed to be busy, and it certainly kept me busy.
But I think it's one of those things, isn't it? It keeps you busy, and it also is a constant sort of sense of achievement as well. And you set yourself goals that you kind of have to kind of make, which I think it makes sense. And I think I think it's a hard thing to study like that, because it's, as with any creative things, because I kind of think if you're doing more of like the sciences, or perhaps more of a, you know, psychology or something like that, while they're not easy, you're not trying to put your creative time under pressure, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I found a lot. I'm like, but I'm not ready to submit it. I'm not ready. I want to extend it. I want to put. It's like, but do you know what I mean? It's kind of, and I'm sure you get people like that. I mean, you know, anyone who's studied psychology is probably going to come and try and slap me for saying that. I'm not trying to say that it's easier, but I think when you're doing like a creative degree, and you've got a time limit on it, I think it can be. Like you could, what am I trying to say? Really, I suppose you could kind of be like sort of tired, but still. I don't know how I'm trying to articulate
no, I know
this,
what you
really.
mean. Yeah, I think I remember my major project that I had to do for my MA year. It was like basically a 90-page document, and then I had to do this sort of major project, which was, I think we had to do, I can't remember, I think it was like 45 minutes of score to film. So we had to kind of pick an uncopyrighted piece of film and score it, basically. So, you know, we had to be able to sort of do the whole thing and then write a critical, you know, document to support it. And I honestly found that so much fun. And I mean, I would never, ever, ever sit and write a 90-page essay on anything other than aeroplanes or music. Because I'm just not that sort of person. I wouldn't say I'm particularly academic, you know, not academically minded, I suppose, but I think I just was so into it that the kind of that just went out the window. And I guess I see what you mean. It's like you don't really see it as like a workload. It's more you really want to do it.
No, definitely. And it's interesting you brought, because I didn't even put the planes in there, because we're gonna have to explain it. We're gonna have to explain this now because you've said it.
I know. Sorry, I'm both a kind of worms.
It's fine. We will. But I want to just come. So your masters as well. That Because I remember you. I remember the time when we finished at Northbrook. I remember you kind of you were toying with the idea of going off and getting a master's. I mean, was it just that you wanted to continue, or did like you wanted to keep focusing and keep kind of getting there, or was there almost like a, you know, perhaps you weren't satisfied at that point, you wanted more, or?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of everything, actually. I think it was a bit of all of those. I think, yeah, really the majority of it was, I think I needed to be busy, and I think I was working, where would I have been working at the time? I was still working for Toyota, which was all great and fine, but it wasn't like a full-time job. It was very much part-time. And I think it was either a case of I need to go and find a full-time job, or go and study and better, further my education, and hopefully that will, help me find a job a bit more, sort of give me more chance. And I think, it was that. And obviously just, I think I was at a point in my life where I was quite sort of, I suppose, a bit down as well. And I think just needed to, I think it was definitely the right choice.
Sure. Well, definitely. And again, you, like, one of the things I love seeing as well was, that you managed to work with an orchestra again, but as a conductor.
Oh yeah, God, it was terrifying. Yeah, it was really, it was, very scary. And I remember there was a guy on my course who was a conductor, and I remember him giving us some pointers before, and the different, sort of meters and time signatures and how to do that, and how to wave the stick or the baton as they call it. But it was quite overwhelming, because they put you in their sort of really high-tech studio and concert hall room that they've got, that's all kitted out, and they hired in a sort of a string quartet, and some other bits and pieces, and basically we had to write all the parts out for them to play live and conduct it. So yeah, it was good fun. It was a good lesson. Yeah, unfortunately it didn't last very long. It was like, it would have been nice to have a bit more experience at that, because obviously as a composer it's probably quite important.
Was it called the Visconti stage? Was that the studio, Visconti Studios?
I can't remember. It was Kingston's kind of in-house.
Yeah,
I can't remember. Sorry, it was a while ago. It was at their Kingston Hill campus.
Got you.
So, but yeah, it was beautiful. It was a lovely, lovely room. The acoustics were lovely, and I think it was called the Hexagon or something, some sort of shape.
It was
because it was like I don't know, I can't remember if it was hexagon or octagon or some sort of.
It was a shapely room. It was a shapely place.
Shapely,
but it is strange, isn't it? Because to think that you kind of, because I can't think of any. Yeah, so that was an MA in music, wasn't it? So I suppose it still kind of went. Was it still film music based, or did you choose to do film music as part of your discipline?
It was composition, so the degree was actually composition based, so which is what I wanted, because I think obviously music a degree in music is obviously a very vague, very general subject, and I think I really wanted to specialise in composition because that's what I enjoyed more. And I wasn't, I've as much as I'm interested in the history and things like that, I think I wanted to sort of focus in more on making music and moving forward with it and stuff like that. So, I think it worked really nicely with the course that we did. I think because it set me up nicely for that.
It's cool, but it's just interesting that you say, because it's like, even though you go to master's level, and it's like, even with the conducting, you don't get. It's still short. It's almost like how do these guys? How do you learn? It's almost like, if you went to like the Royal College of Music and paid like $100,000 or something, would you?
I don't know. I think they expect you to know it all already. This is the problem, and this is something that I think really more now that I'm in the education field is something I really want to help kids with, particularly, is to help them have all these skills before they. If they then choose to study music, they know how to do all of it, because I was thrown in the deep end massively, because my theory skills were non-existent. I couldn't read music when I started at college. It was all just in my head, and I was like, I had to learn very quickly, and it was a real panic. But I mean, I was happy to, but it was like, it would have really helped if I'd known how to hold a conductor's baton, or you think
what is this one thing here?
Literally, I didn't have a clue. And you think at that level that you should know that you should have some sort of training on that in advance, really, like even like a masterclass or something, just for half a day. So I think that's, I think I've taken a lot from that. I mean, actually, you mentioned guest lecturing. That's given me a really good thought, actually, because I'd love to do some bits sort of, with university students as well. Just to give them that guidance, because it is quite daunting when you're in a room with professional musicians and you're like, what am I doing?
It can be. I know exactly what you mean. I think there is a level of like, because it's a funny thing you say. One of the chaps we work with, George McFarlane, he works down at Echo 7 Studios, but he's been all over the world, Paisley Park Studios, and he's worked with Prince, Bob Marley, like, he's worked with Shaka Khan, Gabrielle, and the list goes on. And he does make me laugh because he's kind of like, when you talk about like the history of music and like the kind of analysing of music and stuff like that, which I think is interesting to a point, but he does make me laugh because he's like look, all these uni kids sit there, like analysing Bob Marley's lyrics. It's like, look, man, they get in the studio at 10 a.m, they get stoned.
Yeah.
And it's all like, the sun is shining, the weather is sweet. Yeah. It's like, they're stoned.
There's no logic to it at all. It's just how they were feeling.
That's the thing. It's like, literally, Bob Marley stoned, playing football.
Yes.
And singing, like, of course the sun's shining, the weather's sweet, because he's high.
And he's Caribbean, so yeah.
This is the thing. I think it's kind of like, well, he was over here, wasn't he? He was in Island Studios, but
that's true.
But it's just interesting how, like, because I often find with my work as well, and you may have found this, it's like you write a piece of music, and then you don't know maybe you got an idea of where you're going, but once you've written it and you're doing your analysis, it's like, oh yeah, that bit's from there, and I kind of expanded it. You sort of intellectualize it out of nowhere.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you tend that tends to come. Yeah, definitely after. I think the actual you just physically feel it, and you can't really explain it, and then I guess once it's down, you can then go back and critique it and think like, put it together.
Exactly. So I don't think kind of like trying to sit there for however long psychoanalyzing Bob Marley's lyrics, like to a point you can, and it's where with these, obviously there's music kind of timestamps time, doesn't it? You can look back at old music and kind of get a feel of what was going on at the time. But
definitely,
Bob Marley was high, the weather is sweet.
Yeah.
So it's kind of but I think you're right. I think it's because that's the thing with the guest selection. If I went back, it's kind of like the life after uni, what happens with it, and I left after my BA and was like, well, what the hell do I do now? I'm just going to do my own company because I don't know where to go.
Yeah, just employ yourself.
I think which is nightmare in itself. But like, but I think you're right. It's like if you had that, and I suppose you have kind of got that. But I mean, towards we get into the back end of our talk, it's kind of like with you now teaching. I suppose you have got that opportunity to at least plant seeds.
Yeah.
Like, have a think about this. By the way, you've done really well. You've done your grades or whatever else. But have a think about this. If you've at least got that kind of influence.
But yeah, I think that's a really, really true, actually. I think that I quite like that. I quite like that I can have some sort of influence and guidance to the upcoming musicians, because, I look at, the kids that I teach and the adults that I've taught, and I think, they're using the techniques that I've given them and that mindset that I had at the time, but they've got the extra benefit of now being able to read music, improvise. And I think because I was so weak at reading music at the time when I was younger, I think I really push that now, because I get people come to me saying, I just want to learn the piano, I don't want to read music. And I say, well, you kind of have to really, because there's only so far you can really go with an instrument. It's all well and good being able to play by ear, which, I'm very lucky to be able to do, but that only takes you so far, because obviously if you then want to do it as a career, you're stuffed really if you can't read music.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. I mean, do you find that though? I mean, I suppose the differences I suppose how did the teaching thing start? How did you start? I gather, and without putting words in your mouth, I gather you were doing it when you were working at a music shop. Did that kind of start it? Yeah.
So I mean, it was about it must be 5 years ago. I think I was working at Toyota, and I was kind of coming to the end of the job that I was doing there, because my job was literally coming to an end. They were making it a redundant position, and I kind of panicked because I thought, okay, so I could either move into another sort of sales role, car sales, and I loved the motor trade. I was always big on that, and I did it for a long time, but it wasn't, it was just kind of like it was pays the bills. It was never like, I don't want to be doing this forever sort of thing.
Sure.
And I think I kind of thought to myself, well, you know, the whole trying to push the music, composing, all of that, it didn't go particularly well. And I think, you know, I just thought I need to be earning a living, and, you know, really just putting all this energy into something positive. So I think the teaching kind of, I guess it just sort of fell into it. And I think I remember talking to actually one of my dad's friends who said, my friend owns a music service and is looking for piano teachers. And so I thought, oh great, I'll give him a call and all of that. And I started with him, which went really nicely. And then I think it just sort of snowballed, got more work there, and then eventually started to move it closer to home because a lot of it was quite far away. And then was very fortunate to get a position came up at my old primary school, which was, I was very lucky to get that because it's a lovely school. It's literally like 10-second drive from where I live. I'm very, very lucky to have that. And so that, and I guess that's now my main area of work. So.
And do you find, I suppose, because I know you obviously you're doing it in the school, but you kind of do it privately as well. Do you find that kind of like, I suppose you've touched on it a bit, but the differences, I suppose, between like maybe the kids and the adults, do you find that, I mean, or is it more the adults come in and sort of say, I want to do this, and then you're like, well, I'm the teacher and you're doing this and this?
Yeah, I must say, I mean, I've enjoyed teaching adults. I think a lot of them are very much at my mercy, and they're very much like, I'm here and I'm open-minded and I'm happy for you to just take control. And that's really nice because I don't feel like I'm a controlling person, but I feel like I have a lot to give, you know, and a lot of energy to give. And I think, you know, they kind of just soak that up really nicely. And I think adults generally, when learning something new, they're very vulnerable and they're very kind of open to being told what to do and how to do it, more so than children, as I've discovered.
Interesting.
Yeah, which is really bizarre because although, you know, the kids I teach are lovely, I'm really lucky with my pupils, they're lovely. But you see a real pattern in the age categories. So I'd say, you know, sort of teenagers are a really good age to teach, because obviously, you know, they're, you know, a bit more mature and they want to be there, and you know, and obviously same with adults, I guess, you know, they're paying for it themselves, they want to be there, and you know, that's what they want to do. So yeah, it's definitely, I think you learn a lot more about musical psychology with different age groups as well. And I think I've taught very, very little children, which is not so easy. I'd say, yeah, that's a tough one because they're very, very energetic, and you know, they don't focus very well. And you know, some of them are very naturally gifted, I will say. But again, that's a real challenge doing that with the little ones. So I tend to stick more with kind of 9 and 10 plus now.
Where you've got well, I suppose it's one of those things is that you run the risk, don't you? I suppose it's like if they're kind of naturally drawn to it, then they're going to be there. But then it's if they're not, and the parents just saying, I want them to play the piano, and the kid's just not interested.
No, it's really
not going to work, is it?
No, and I don't like that. I think that's one thing I really take very personally. And I think, I guess this is one thing I have to really bite my tongue with when teaching, is that you do get a lot of children who are forced into learning an instrument. Mostly because they want their kids to go to grammar schools, or it's normally some ulterior motive that's got nothing to do with being a musician. Sure. And for somebody who is, you know, at heart a musician, I find that really like hurtful, and really, I just think, you know, that you can't do that, you know, it's really wrong. But obviously, you know, they're paying you, and that's, you know, that's what you're there, that is your job. So yeah, I'm not there to give my opinion.
No, it's strange though, because you Tina Guo, who plays, well, she started literally on YouTube just while she was studying, and then I think she went on to do like touring with Michael Jackson or Michael Jackson Live or whatever, and then she started working on film scores and blah de blah. But the interesting thing with her is that kind of like Chinese parents are like, you will do this 8 hours a day, like completely like, you know, like strict as hell. Yeah. And she said she hated it. But now she's like so grateful and so kind of like not resentful and not. Yeah. So it's strange. It's kind of like I think sometimes it's sort of it's a weird. It's like, I mean, I personally think knowing to play an instrument, like the studies they do on like your brain activity when you're actually playing music, it's like really good for your brain development and really good for your memory
Yeah.
and you're kind of like balancing your emotions, and it's strange. It's kind of I do think that it's sort of I mean we started at the beginning of this chat, didn't we, talking about obviously with your nan, you know, where they, like in the war times and stuff, they were playing sheet, you know, they would have been able to read basic sheet music and play the piano because you didn't have Netflix and you didn't have like all these social media and distractions. It was like you'd make your own entertainment. You know, publishing was literally buying sheet music, wasn't it? So I don't know. I hear what you're saying, and I think it's kind of like whatever. But I think if they're really not interested, you've got to try and find something else.
Yeah, I think sorry.
No, sorry. I'm supposed to be interviewing you, and I'm talking. But it's just I just find it was interesting, that case study where she was. I mean, and that was hardcore, like 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
You know, she was told to play the cello. That's
a long time. I mean, it can go one of two ways. I think it's very much 50-50. I know of kids, actually, even at the school I teach, who one of them is grade 7, who must be now year 5, so about 8, 9, 10 years old. I mean, grade 7 that's like professional level. Again, practices for hours a day. I you know, again, by the looks of things, enjoys doing it, which is lovely. So I think it's one of those things that, you know, it can go one of two ways. You either really resent them or you're really grateful. I think it's how they handle that pushiness, because, you know, you get them that are very cracking the whip and, you know, really aggressive, and which I've experienced people like that. And I'm not afraid now to say to them, actually, your child doesn't want to do this. You're wasting your time and money, and you're wasting my time as well, because I don't want to put my time into somebody that doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it can be, you can find yourself getting stressed out, and it's just no point. It's just no point. Yeah,
you're just banging your head against the wall. And I think, you know, I would say a good tip really is just to not be afraid to say, look, we're wasting each other's time here. If it's not working, it's not working. Like, you know, there's no point in trying to throw money at something if they don't want to do it. You know, it's just cut your losses.
And do you find, because it's a weird one, that one of my friends, Ben, he's a guitar teacher, and he says that some of his students, he's like, they almost like push him, like they get to this level where they're sort of almost bouncing off each other and that sort of stuff. Did you find that you're like, wow, like what is going on here? Like,
I will say, children have taught me so much about myself. I feel, because you have to keep your cool with children. I've surprised myself a lot, because I feel like at times I can be quite impatient, and not aggressive, but maybe a bit intolerant and a bit impatient of people. And I find with children that kind of tends to really go out the window when I'm teaching, because I have to be patient. You know, that's the job, and I think that's quite good for me. But I've taught a few children, a couple in particular, who are really naturally gifted, and you know, I look at how they've just shot through their grades like you wouldn't believe, and you know, you can hear them singing the notes in tune, like, you know, they've obviously got good pitch skills and things like that, and it's really inspiring, because I think, you know, you look at them and you think, like, that's how I was feeling at that age, and you know, and they've just got so much passion for it. And you do, and you learn loads about yourself teaching children. I think it's very they bring a lot to the table, and they're very savvy as well. They're not afraid to actually say how they really feel, which I like, because adults are very sort of, you know, but kids are just like, no, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, okay, let's try something else.
Let's try something different.
And I like that. You know, they've got real gumption. I think particularly kids as musicians, I think is a really good mix, because it helps them to focus and discipline, which most kids, you know, a lot of kids, nowadays don't have discipline, and it's quite worrying.
It's hugely worrying.
It's very worrying.
It's hugely the end of the world.
Yeah, literally. So I'm very like, I'm very like, you know, I say to the kids, I'm quite disciplined, but in a friendly way. And I'll say to them, you know, you need to be doing this practice, and I want to know you've been doing it. And they're very good at like tracking that, and the parents are well aware of that as well. And I think, you know, it's important.
Do you find that? Do you find that when, because that's one thing I wanted to ask as well, just because I was just interested in it, is do you find that kind of the parents who are perhaps more on board with that, you get more results, or do you find some parents who literally just leave it all to the kids?
Some of them, I mean, some of them, I'd say, sort of previous experience with sort of slightly what I would call more pushy, the kids tend to react quite badly in the lessons. They tend to just sit, they want to just sit and chat, or, you know, not do what they should be doing. And I find I struggle, well, not struggle, but I find they're a lot harder to control because they want to sit and muck around and just play silly tunes and chat and laugh. And I think that they've come from a more pushed background. Whereas I think, yeah, there are a lot of kids I teach who have asked to learn the piano, and their parents are really supportive, but kind of, yeah, almost leave me to do my job. They're the easier ones to teach by a long way, yeah, because they want to be there and they just soak it up. And yeah, so I'd say I do try. I think communication is really important. I always tell the parents what's going on quite regularly because I think it's important. They've got that support at both ends. But yeah, I'd say children respond generally a lot better. And I can say from personal experience, I was never kind of forced to do anything or really, really pushed. You know, I think I was very encouraged with my studies, but I was never forced. And I'm really grateful for that because it made me really want to do it myself, and not because I had to. I think
it makes sense, and I think it's kind of what, because I considered it. People keep telling me, Mike, you should be a teacher.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if I've got the temper. I don't know. I
think you'd be great. No, I think because you've got great energy, and I think you've got so much knowledge as well. I think, you know, especially what you're doing, like with all the techie stuff, people would pay for that.
Well, this is the thing, and I think it's one of those things that one. Because again, I was talking to my old lecturer today. It's like there's got to be that. I mean, you can answer it off the bat, but there's got to be that thing where you're working with a student for a period of time to get to this goal, and then when they finally get it and they're kind of doing it, there's got to be that sense of like, you know, you're just gonna feel the energy of like they've achieved that, and you've helped them with that. It's like a real sort of like you're actually coaching someone like who wants to do it to get there. It's got to be a rewarding feeling, right?
It is. It's a lovely feeling, actually. And I think actually that reminds me of excuse me, sorry, reminds me of a chap that I taught who was probably well into his 70s, if not late 60s, but he has been attempting to take grade 8 since the 70s, since like the early 70s.
Wow.
I think he'd attempted it 7 times. You know, basically it was always very close to passing, but never quite got there. Came to me and just said, I need some help. I'm useless with exams. I need some help. I'd not long done my grade 8, so it was all quite fresh in my mind. And I just said, okay, right. So how's your sight reading? He said that was okay. So we kind of nailed it down and kind of tailored it. And it turns out that it was the oral tests that he just completely flipped out on. So we just did some intensive work on that. And he absolutely aced it. And he passed, and he passed really well.
Amazing.
And he was just so grateful. He was like, this is a life dream, literally a life dream. And, you know, to be able to just help somebody achieve that was really, really lovely. And I just felt really, you know, I was just pleased for him, really. I mean, you know, it was just nice to see somebody achieve. And I think that's really important because I think the world of musicians, it's very much like, you know, a lot of musicians don't like seeing other musicians achieve. And I find that's really awful because, you know, music's like about who you are as a person. It's not like, it shouldn't be a job. It's like who you are. It's built into you.
I think it's as soon as business starts getting into it, it can be a little bit like, I'm not giving you my contacts.
No,
although I would say that in the film, in the trailer world and the film world lately, the communities are amazing.
Yeah,
like they really are. Sort of. I interviewed a chap, Grant Borland, my mate, from Michigan, and the amount of support that he gives and the amount of support he gets, and you see kind of all the I mean, I'm not really on Facebook much these days anymore because it drives me nuts, but it's like the amount of support on there, it's like it's really cool. And like he made a sample library. I did a little demo queue for him, and someone else did a demo queue for him, and then we all put it on our individual YouTube channels. And so I think it's kind of starting to get to a place where like whether everyone's kind of got their own individual publishers, and like really if I give you the contact details for like one of my publishers, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? I know exactly what you're saying, that kind of like I get the competition side of it.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, I get that.
I can remember when you came.
Well,
I remember at uni, like you came in once and you'd nailed that like Hans Zimmer sounding ostinato.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I was really struggling to get it to sound anywhere. I just couldn't get it to, and I was like, what? She's done it. How's she done it? I can remember I was up for like a day and a half back then. Like, how did that? And,
Really?
and then I did that Prometheus track, rescore track.
Yeah, I remember. That was really good.
So it's like,
Sorry, my sister's bombarding me.
It's like, I don't mind that because that's like creative. That's creatives like spurring other people on. But I know exactly what you mean. Some people can really be like that, can't they? They can be kind of like, like just not want someone else to succeed.
Just
it's really not.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that really put me off that particular world, because I just can't, I can't relate to that. I think, I remember going up to London and going up to, some of these like top studios and, top people and sort of chatting to them, and I just found that not obviously, just not that everybody in that world's like that, but these particular people were just so pretentious and so aggressive, and I was just like, I just can't relate to you, because they were just like, music is money, and I was just like, that's not what I'm in it for. I'm in it to share it and to give the gift of it, and
this is why agents exist.
Yeah, I know.
Because then you don't have to deal with it. But I think, as one thing I would say as well from my observation is Los Angeles. I think part of that is kind of like London is like that. Like, I found a lot of worlds like that. Whereas like when I was in LA, it was a lot. People were very open, and they were more kind of like, take my business card and stay on my couch, man, and I'll drive you around West Hollywood. There seemed to be more of that kind of like, you can do it. You can, there seemed to be more of that sort of thing. So that's, I mean, I suppose, do you ever find yourself kind of like recording tracks anymore, even if it's just for yourself, like, or have you literally moved away from that sort of almost entirely at the moment?
Yeah, I don't feel, it's weird. I feel really kind of sad actually, because I feel that I haven't done any recording of that for a long time. I feel sad that it's, because obviously I put a lot of time and effort into it. So yeah, I think I guess I'm not in the same sort of headspace as I was then, and I think that's why I haven't done any. I do miss it. I just feel, I think because because the teaching has become really busy, and I've taken on other things as well, and I think I guess I haven't had the time to really sit and commit to that. So yeah, I would really like to get back into it. I think I need to maybe start looking at updating my, sort of digital, software and things like that, because it's all very out of date.
I would say as well though, I could see you kind of like, because you got to remember, if you look at kind of like I mean, I think Hans Zimmer, when he won his Oscar for, say, The Lion King, he was 38.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like a lot of, you're young, Em. You got. It's like I can see you almost like like in your 50s, being Mike. I'm composing this film.
Yeah, I do.
It's like I think it's the journey you've gone on. It's still keeping you grounded in music. It's still kind of. You're still learning music. You're still experiencing people. You're teaching people, and you've still got your foot in the game. So it's like, I think if you really from that grounding, you could almost go anywhere. You could end up moving like all around the place in different fields like that.
Yeah.
I suppose one of the questions I like to ask everybody, because it's one that gets asked a lot anyway. It's kind of like that burnout, and I suppose if you are training now and not so much composing, this is maybe a question from back in the day, but I suppose that like writer's block or creative burnout.
Yeah.
Like how did you deal with that, say through uni, for instance? How did you like? Do you get it, and how did you accomplish over it, I suppose?
Yeah, I think so. Do you know what? I think at the time, again, not that I kind of use it as an excuse, but I think because of obviously going through what we, losing our dad and stuff like that, and I think I had so much strong emotion. It was a real raw, almost, obviously anger and stress and all these, very negative emotions. And I think, all through the period of being, doing my degree, really, this was going on. It literally happened slap bang in the middle of it. And I had a very quick choice to make. It was either a case of give up and just, let it consume you, or just throw yourself into it. And I think I just needed it. It was like, it was a real drive to keep going and to not completely lose the plot.
Sure.
And I think, it was, I think it just came at the right, I say at the right time, obviously, that happened, and that was the real driving force behind me wanting to do it, because I had all these emotions and all this feeling. And I think maybe now that I've obviously feel better now, it's, a few years later, maybe I don't need it. I feel like I don't need to do it as much, because obviously I'm healing.
I think it makes a lot of sense. It's almost like you channeled what was a really bad time into you used it and channeled it, and that's it's, I think it's people who don't do that who end up in real trouble. So I think that makes perfect sense. It's almost like you had to do it basically to keep yourself there. That makes perfect sense. It really does make perfect sense.
Yeah, it was, as I say, I enjoyed it as well. I loved every second of the courses, but I think, it was very much like, this is something I enjoy. I've got this opportunity to just completely consume, like all-consuming world where I can just escape everything that's been going on, like in sort of at home. And I think it, it really, really helped with that. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about, especially with children, because obviously there's so many children that are going through things at home, and and I think they, it is like a prescription. It's like, it's like it helps you, and I think it gives you that kind of logical understanding, and you can help to reason a lot more, and confidence and discipline, and and all these things that have helped me. I want that to help the future musicians.
Which almost answers my question: what does music mean to you?
Oh well,
because it's like you've said it. It's a prescription. It's a kind of which is why I don't understand why it seems to be so devalued these days. And like you say, musicians find it so, it's almost like it's not a real job, or it's not a proper job. It's like, well, actually, this is really important, right?
Yeah, and this is why the composing thing. I think as much as I desperately want to do it as a job, as well as teaching, I just think it's so difficult to find a large team that at least you don't have, because I remember working up in London and a music company up there, which I did for obviously that sort of, I think it was only about 6 or 8 months, but even up there, I mean, the people I worked with were lovely, and they were all really lovely and kind and everything, but just the actual being in London, like just the people that you have, like just commuting, even, it was just, I hated it. It was just it was awful. I feel like London Bridge is like literally you've got 0.5% chance of dying every morning at the tube station because it's so busy. And that was not my, I'm not that sort of person, and I think it's very, very aggressive, and I didn't like that at all.
No, it can be like that, and I think even the film composing world is like the schedules are just grueling.
Yeah.
It can be very much like, right, can you get this cue done within the next 3 hours? And you're like, what? Like, can you send me hello? Like, okay, like, and then it's like, so I suppose, and this is the thing nowadays is so I've got to compose, mix, master in 3 hours or a day, or and it can get like that. But I mean, it's some of that's down to you saying no as well. Yeah,
it's important to know how to say no. This is one thing I've learned, particularly through teaching kids, and also through like the Air Force training that we did as well. I think that's where you have to learn to say no to people, because if you say yes all the time, and I'm very, very guilty of saying yes all the time, because I like to please everybody, and I don't like letting people down, and I still do it now, but I feel like I'm more comfortable saying no than I used to be. And you just burn yourself out, and you're no good to anybody if you say yes to everyone and then you don't do any of it because you're exhausted.
I agree. So, you've brought planes up again.
Yeah, I know, we're gonna have to.
Go for it.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, where do I start? I mean, I think planes really is, I'd say planes and music are my two always they've always been there. As long as I can remember, I've been mad about planes and music. So I'd say I was a cadet when I was younger in Air Cadets, and loved every second of that. I made some lovely friends, and went to some great places, and we did some overseas camps, and just all sorts of cool stuff really that teenagers normally would never get to do. And I think that defined and shaped me a lot as a person, made me appreciate things a lot, because, you know, we were able to go and shoot and, you know, and go and fly upside down in planes and experience 0G and all sorts of mad stuff. And, you know, it's just, it was like, you know, not your regular weekend, really. It was always some fun stuff going on.
It's amazing.
It was great. Yeah, it was the best years, really, I'd say. Just, you know, you make some really wonderful friends who all have the same things in common, who, you know, want to do the same things. And yeah, you feel like part of something really special. And I think, you know, as it obviously got to sort of 18, I had to leave. So obviously I aged out, went to college, and all of that. And then, you know, a few years later, I sort of thought, oh, I really miss that life. I just miss that fix of, you know, because I did start the process of applying to join the Air Force when I was 17. And then I got as far as being offered the first interview, but then I never sort of followed it up. I think I just wasn't in the right place at the time.
Sure.
And I think, you know, I made the right choice, because I think being posted off here, there and everywhere was not, I'm a home bird, and, you know, I couldn't have dealt with that, really. I think I'd have hated it. And I just thought, do you know what? Why, there must be a way of getting that fix of that life, but still being, you know, doing your main job. So yeah, I went back to my old squadron, as you know, sort of initially as a civilian staff there, and sort of helped out, and then I sort of commissioned 2 years ago? Yeah, it'll be 2 years this year, with the RAF, sort of up at Cranwell at their college, and so I got my commission.
Amazing. Congratulations.
So, thank you.
I remember seeing it.
It half killed me, but I loved every second of it. It was just like, I think you have to go through the officer selection up at RAF Cranwell, and they put you through your paces up there. They're sort of, you know, they're screaming at you, and, you know, they really push you to your real limits there with, you know, what you can mentally stand. And I think, you know, you have to really want to be there to get through it, because they can suss you out
pretty quick.
Yeah. So yeah, I had to kind of leave my usual facade at the door and just go full pelt, and I had to turn into somebody completely different, basically, to survive that course, because it was really tough. But it was great. And I think when I went back up to do my officer training last year, it was, you know, you just meet such wonderful people, you know, and you just, you learn so much about yourself when you're thrown into these situations. You know, you're getting up at 5 a.m, you know, and you're having to, you know, have inspections, and it's a real, you know, it's that kind of military life, and, you know, you experience it completely as the regulars do, but then you get to come home after, back to your own bed, and, you know, sort of do your own job.
This is the thing. I mean, my granddad would have said that everyone should have national service.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I kind of agree, because I think it does. Okay, that you can do it as you've done, but I think learning that discipline, and like what you said it, it's like, you know, what can I actually do? You know, like, and then when you put yourself in that position, it's like, wow, it's like you come out a bit more grounded, I think, a bit stronger.
Yeah, you do.
Which is really cool. You know, so that is you are full of surprises, Emily, are you? You're full of surprises, mate.
It's a very random, you know, as I say, they're very random interests, and they don't really link particularly well. But I'd say, being, you know, with the RAF Air Cadets, you know, I can bring a lot of my teaching experience into that, because I teach a lot of aviation subjects. You know, the kids are great. I love working with the kids there, and, you know, they're so inspiring. A lot of them are musicians as well, so we've done some music bits through them. So it does, you know, I can bring a lot of it sort of, you know, interlinking there. But I think it's lovely to be able to, again, just I like to help people, and I like to help guide them. I think using life experience that I've had, both good and bad, you know, I think it's really important.
And I agree. But I think there is I think there is a link in terms, you know, I mean, you've often got military bands, haven't you? And a lot of people, you know, learn music there and things like that. So I think there's always been like a strong link, you know, because I suppose it's uniformed, isn't it? If you're learning music, it's a discipline, and then you're marching, and then it's all kind of like, you know, there's no wonder there's a 4/4 time signature is the most popular sort of you know, in the world, because it's literally left foot, right foot.
It is very much, and we've done, like, you know, choirs, we've done, I mean, sort of hoping to try and do a bit more when things ease off again, but you know, sort of there's all sorts of things you can do, and that's what I love about that organisation, is that you can. There's just something for everybody, you know. There's literally a course for anybody. You know, you don't even have to particularly like planes. You can go and just work on the, you know, Duke of Edinburgh stuff, or shooting, or whatever you want, really. It's
I love that. So Emily can teach. She can teach you piano, and she can like shout at you and get you moving.
Hopefully, yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Good fun.
So are you? I mean, what I suppose what it's a weird question to ask people right now in the middle of what we're going through at the moment. But I mean, I suppose, what are your hopes for the future? Like, are you working on anything you wanted to share with us, or where are you at the moment?
I'd say I'm hoping to kind of branch out a lot more. I've actually started looking more into. I've been working a lot more on teaching singing recently as well. Obviously everything's moved on to Zoom now, which for piano is perfect. Really, I love teaching Zoom on piano. Piano on Zoom. Sorry. It's quite easy transition. Singing, it not so easy, but still possible. But I'd really like to start doing sort of some music theory classes and tuition and things like that, because again, you can do that on Zoom really easily, like in group sessions, to try and help particularly children and kids that are studying music or need some guidance, because obviously the schools, they don't always give the biggest support, particularly with music subjects. So yeah, I'd say that's probably next on my list, is to start really building that up and just offering help, and going to try and do some master classes and things like notation and how to learn the notes on the piano quickly. Just because again, these are all things I struggled with, and I feel like I really want to help people, because there's a lot of people that struggle with that still. So probably a bit of that. I mean, I've been looking into I was really interested in music therapy. But obviously that would mean more studying. I think on reflection, it's going to mean a lot more student loans, which I can't really afford to do. I need to start paying off my existing student debt. So, yeah, probably should do that first. So I think that'll have to be something maybe in sort of 10 years time, a bit further down the line, maybe as a change then. But yeah, I think I think music therapy is good, because it's really, again, it's obviously helping people, but I think the challenges of working with like dementia patients and things like that would be, I don't know if that's really what I could deal with. So yeah, I'm going to need to think about that. But yeah, I'd say at the moment probably just obviously going with the times and just playing the card that we've been dealt, really, and just trying to do as much online help as possible, and just trying to build that up a bit more, because it's taken a bit of a hit, sadly.
It's been, I agree, but I think it's a really good idea, because the kids as well, they're at home and they can't. I'm worried about kids socialising, and I suppose because if you did singing, I suppose you could it was a group thing. They could still harmonise with each other badly, and
I'd say choirs on Zoom is really difficult, because obviously there's that when one person's talking, and you can't even teaching one person on Zoom singing is really tough, because if you've got a backing track running, there's that lag, and obviously you don't always hear everything clearly. It cuts out. It's it's really not ideal. But yeah, I think that's I think that's where the tuition comes in. I really want to try and do that in groups, because I think kids can't do any extracurricular stuff at all. And I think, luckily I'm in quite a strong position where I can offer, sort of that help and that support, and hopefully use it as a bit of a social, sort of support as well, which would be nice. So
definitely.
Yes, hopefully.
We'll be supporting you along the way there.
Thank you. Oh, that'd be lovely. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
This one, so I suppose, do you have any tips or advice for anyone starting out? And what would you have told yourself, I suppose, what would you have wanted someone to tell you, when you were perhaps starting out?
Do you know what? I would say the discipline is really important. I would say don't look at the discipline as like overwhelming and overbearing, but I think it's really important to practice regularly. I only really found that out when I decided to go full pelt at a grade 8 exam, and I'd never really done grades before. I learned the hard way. It took me about 1.5 years, and I had to work religiously. I was very much the underdog, and I would say, just a short bit every day, or at least 5 days a week, really, really pays off. When I did sort of grade 1 and 2 when I was at school, a lot younger, and didn't particularly, if I'm honest, I didn't practice much. I just kind of blagged it because I could memorize the pieces, and I just played them in the exam, and I think they knew straight away that I couldn't read music, and I was just memorizing it and doing it by ear, because my report said that.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so it was like, great improvisation. The oral test was great, but the sight reading was atrocious, and you weren't actually looking at the book when you were playing. So yeah, I that's why I'm really like, I need to teach people to read music now. It's really important. Yeah, so I'd say, just practice regularly. Be honest with yourself. If you don't want to do it, don't force yourself to do it. Don't feel forced to do it. It's got to come from the heart. I think, like you said, it's a real creative. It's a creative thing, isn't it? It's about who you are, and yeah, it's not like a lot of things where it's sort of it's got to come from you as a person.
Definitely. 100%.
Definitely.
So, where can we find you, Emily?
Well, at the moment, I'm actually working on. I need to reset up my website because I did have one, but I've kind of let it disappear over lockdown. So I need to get back on social media. So I'm currently, again, not the biggest user of Instagram. So I need to start really building that up as well. But probably I'd say Facebook is a good place at the moment. Yeah, I haven't got the biggest social media presence really anymore, but Facebook, hopefully Instagram as well. I'll be picking that up a bit more, and then my website. I need to try and build that up again, and get it reinstated.
Squarespace, mate. Squarespace.
Yeah,
easy.
I do. Yeah, I did use Wix before, and they were really good, but they're so expensive. And I just thought, I just need a simple website, really. So I'm not running a corporation, so
exactly. Yeah, I don't need to do it.
I just need a simple.
Well, I know you posted out a public post with about your tuition on Facebook, so I'll link that public post in the description of the video, so these people can then link to you through there.
That's very kind, thank you.
And that could be a link through to that side of your business.
Yeah, sounds good. Oh, thank you very much.
Do you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, but just thank you for having me. And yeah, it's just lovely I think it's lovely to go back over and kind of analyse things, because I think, you're so busy constantly doing stuff, and you sort of don't really stop and think about where you've been and where you've come from, and how you've got to where you are. And I think it's lovely to kind of go back on a bit of a journey, and sort of you can really reflect on that, and almost it helps you to maybe think about where you're going to go next as well. I think that's really important. So yeah, no, it's been really nice to do that. I haven't done that before.
No, it's lovely to have you, and I think you're right. It is good sometimes to take a step back and be like, wow, look at all this stuff I've done to get me here.
Yeah, definitely.
People don't do it enough. We're told to constantly look forward.
Yeah.
But if you don't look back, you don't know where you've come from.
No, and I think you need to sometimes, because it's important to look at how you've changed, and sometimes it's not always for the better, and you think, actually, maybe I need to look back at that. And
definitely.
Yeah,
absolutely, 100%, absolutely 100%. Well, look, honestly, thank you, Em. For, like I say, I would have much preferred to do this in person.
Oh no,
but we're adapting and doing what we can.
That's it. We'll defy the virus. Absolutely.
This is what we're doing. Is through screens and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh no, it's been lovely. It's really it's good to chat. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanking you, and I will see you soon.
Yes, hopefully see you soon in the flesh at some point.
That would be good. Perfect. Take care of yourself, mate.
And you. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.